All right. Hey, everybody. So this is the second part, meaning I am now going to talk about the week 8, excuse me, the week 8 final exam. So here I am in the module with the week 8 final exam. I'll put it in student view in case that, and then I will try to explain what it is we're doing here. Okay, let me try to highlight some of this. First good thing, you do not have to cite any materials. So this is all coming directly from you. So that's one good thing. The scenario is this, right? You're presenting your end of class celebration plans to a jury whose sole purpose is to approve or reject end of class celebration plans. This jury has decided many such cases, so it's your job to make your case compelling, engaging, exciting, unique, and argumentatively sound. You're going to do this in 3 fully developed paragraphs, which I'll talk about in a moment. So here's the way I figured out how to think about this. Ready? That makes more sense, because who's ever heard of a jury that like rules on celebration plans, right? But here's the thing. You're going to create, so this is not what you're actually going to do. Like, you're trying to use some imagination here. So imagine this. You are going to pitch your celebration plans to this jury, and if you win, they will give you the money to do it. Okay? So I think, like, in my mind, I think that setup makes way more sense to me, and it would motivate me way more, right? So instead of just being like, I don't know, I'm going to celebrate. Because also the idea is odd. Like, if you're like most people, there's a few people who, I guess Katie, she's this is her last class before she graduates. So that's something, right? But for many of us, we're just going to take another class, you know what I mean? So unless this class was so awful that people are like, thank God, and like crawling out of it like it's some sort of a bunker, but I don't think it was that. So anyway, the idea is you're trying to make up a celebration, and your entire goal is to create these 3 real paragraphs in which you employ the persuasive techniques. Okay. So the assignment for week 8 is really about talking about logic, right? Your logical argument, your approach, things that you will say, evidence you might use in your own life, like my sister already having had the family over and Thanksgiving, that kind of evidence. This is really all about the appeals that we learned. So this is the rubric for it. So it applies to each paragraph. So paragraph 1, this is you describing in super great detail what the celebration will look like. Who's going to be there? Where are you going? What are you eating? What kind of clothes will people be wearing? Like, the more detailed, the better. So don't skip this part. You're really trying to, so come up with a scenario, and you can't just be like, I'm going to go to Hawaii and then move on, right? I want to hear about it. Like, where you're going to leave from, when you get there, where are you going to stay? Who's going with you? What are you bringing because you're going to a certain place? Whatever. So more details, the better. That's for paragraph 1. Paragraph 2 is all about using these methods to persuade, right? So we have the ethos, pathos, logos, and kairos, right? Ethos means you need to, so remember, you're talking to a jury, so you need to demonstrate that your own credibility and the credibility of those who will help you carry out the plan, right? So if you're going to Hawaii and you're like, yeah, my drunk uncle's going to fly us over in a plane that he built, right? Not credible really at all for many reasons. So instead, you want to make sure that when you're explaining what you're going to do, that you're infusing it with sort of credibility, right? Like, you're responsible, and the things that you're going to be doing are going to be like legit. We're not going to stay in some, like, who knows, well, maybe we'll put up a tent on the beach. You want to make it seem like, okay, now we're going to stay in an actual hotel with people, and this is, remember, you can do whatever you want because it's imaginary funding. But anyway, so credibility has to do with you and the people around you. Like, your drunk uncle's also not going to give you, hopefully, scuba diving lessons. But instead, you could say, we're going to sign up with a scuba diving instructor, a certified scuba diving instructor, and I'm going to learn how to do that and something like that. So that's what credibility is about in this time. Okay, pathos. So this means you need to create emotion in the jury. So you're not talking about emotion, like you're not just saying it'll be relaxing, I'll be happy. You need to say things that make the jury feel a certain way, right? Um, so if you're like, yeah, my son's going to come with me. He's 8 years old. He hasn't been out of the house in a year. He just sits by the window and cries most days. I'm making all that up too, but that's a way to get them to feel bad for you or whatever, or empathize with you and be like, oh, she deserves a strip, and so that is that little boy. So something about creating emotion. In the jury. And when I think of that, it's almost always you're trying to create empathy, like people feeling for you so that they will go along with your idea. Other things are like anger and rage. That also persuades people, but in this case, I don't think that really helps much. So that's what pathos is. Logos means you have a logic of the plan, right? So you have a clear plan, like a clear, like I say, cause and effect argument. Going to do this, and this will result in this, and this will result in this, right? You're going to go there, you get a day spa, muscles, and get a massage, and all this whatever stuff. So, but there's a logic to the plan that makes sense and seems like it's reasonable and possible, right? No one wants to fund somebody who doesn't really know what they're doing or their plan's a little irrational. Like, I too am going to go up in space. Like, no, you're not, though. Okay, and kairos is the last one. This one has to do with persuading people because of time, meaning it has to happen right now. I always think of, those old ads on television. Some people remember what television is and what ads were then. But they would be like, call right now and you'll get 2 for 1. That's what kairos is. You're persuading people based on the sense of urgency about time. So, for example, you have to do this celebration now. Not just because it's the end of the class celebration, because like that's the end of the class, but you need to come up with the reasons like why now is better than, because why not just postpone it and do it in like a few months? Like you have to do it now. It's in June, whatever. Use the time, summertime, so then the kids can come. All of those things would add to this idea that we got to do it right now. So that's what the kairos part is. So first paragraph, super detail what you're going to do. Second paragraph, all about those 4 types of persuasion. The third paragraph is trying to do with the other model of persuasion, whereas you're setting out, well, in this case, think of it this way. You're dealing with an opposing argument. Okay, so come up with a couple counter arguments. So you're going to give your plan. What are some holes people are going to poke in it? You want to point them out and then, shut them down, like we sort of have been learning to do, right? So people are going to say, don't go to Hawaii. It's going to be filled with tourists and from, and it's going to be crowded with people. But you can say, well, in fact, that's why I want to go, because I haven't seen people and I like being around people and we haven't been able to be around people and right? So that's what this part is mostly about. And that's the counter argument is a certain model of arguing, right? So that's another way of persuading. So pick it says at least one if you want to do one strong opposing thing and write about it, or pick a couple of them. And then that's how I would deal with that counter argument. So that's your 3 paragraphs. The longer, the better, usually. All the writing comes from you. Make sure that you, if you want, I think I mentioned it before, but like if you put your papers, copy and paste them into Grammarly, it will come back with that report that I actually gave everybody, I think, for the rough draft. It's a useful thing. It just points out errors and you can correct them. I know Word does that also, so it's not like a brand new invention. But anyway, so that's what my suggestion is. Make sure you run it through that. So the thing about the final exam is that it's a timed exam. I think you have 1 hour to do it. But here's the thing, right? I just sort of told you what it is. So what I would do is I would get it all together, maybe even write it or write parts of it or all of it. And then, right, because it says this exam is an open note, open book, open lesson. so you may remind yourself of key terms, right? So if you forget what pathos is real quick, and you can go look that up, that's fine. But, and again, you're not citing or paraphrasing any sources, which I just think is the best thing, since that's always sorts of pain. But anyway, this exam must be composed entirely by you in your voice using your own powers of persuasion. And you're going to do pre-writing and planning and drafting techniques. That's great. Do all of that somewhere else. The only thing they want you to turn in are your 3 polished, finished paragraphs. 3 polished, finished paragraphs. And that is what is known as an examabration. All right.